Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, and joining me today are some familiar faces. I would joke
Welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by the AstroPub. Oh wait, I'm going to do it the other way. AstroPub and Algrid. There we go.
This is an unofficial.
That's quite right. That's Old Man Hurst, not Al.
You know, one day, Algrid, I'm going to put your name up as Old Man Hurst, and you're going to do the whole episode of that voice if you keep going like that. No.
You guys keep setting the challenge. I've heard people say they wanted me to do a whole stream as Old Man Hurst.
No.
I'm not sure I could do it, but
You'd be dead by the end of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the case.
So we're already off the trails, but rails. But the idea is that this was kind of an unofficial Inforunners. After the SCL episode yesterday, I was like, you know what? We haven't had the two main Inforunners on before. All of us Inforunners together on the Captain's Table to talk a little bit about ships, because I tend to talk about a lot of different things. But for those of you who don't know, I'm part of the Inforunners, youtube.com/the-Inforunners. You'll catch Execute and Algrid both on there. I'll let Execute kind of do a little spiel about it. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
No. You two are way better at the promotion than I am.
All right.
So I'm sitting back today. It's you two that get to do all the work.
Let me do it. Let me do it then. All right.
Yeah.
Catch the Inforunners live on, is it Thursdays, Saturdays?
I think it's Thursday your time.
Thursdays and Fridays, my time?
Yeah.
Is it 2 in a row? Okay. Thursday,
No. It's not 2 in a row. It's Thursday
your time.
Thursday our time. No, Thursday our time, American Friday time. No, wait.
No, Wednesday.
Friday, other way around. Friday our time,
Saturday.
See, this is...
because you're in the future. Right?
Yeah.
So live's on Friday. At what does it start? Usually Eastern time. Do you know?
That's a good question. It's 7 p.m. 7:30 a.m. for us. So, God, I don't know. Yeah, it starts sometime. You'll have to figure it out for yourself.
What time is it right there now? Right there, because it's pretty early.
9 a.m.
So 2 hours. So 2 hours before.
Yeah.
So
I'm converting it for you. It is
4:30.
30 p.m. Yeah, 4:30 p.m.
4:30 p.m. New York time. So 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. Join us live where we talk about everything. It's kind of a question and answer session. But you can join Execute.
You ask the questions, we will answer them to the best of our ability. But remember, we're not CIG employees, and we're going on the best information that we've been able to glean from CIG websites and other information.
And you can catch Fix My Fleets. We do theory episodes. We're coming into the busy time of the year, so Execute's hopefully going to get some sleep here shortly, because when we hit IAE, we usually do a video every single sale day where we talk about the sales, the breakdowns, everything. And so if you like Star Citizen content, you want to learn more about the news, you want to learn about the future of Star Citizen, you want to learn about ships. If you yourself have ships, you want to come on and say, what do I do with my fleet? We'll help you out with lots of different aspects of like fleet management, what's good to keep, what's good to give away, that sort of thing. And because of this is the reason why I brought both of these gentlemen on to discuss ships. We're going to go on talk a little bit about ships. So let's get right off the bat. I'm going to start with you, Algrid, on this one. What are your thoughts on the 600i that we just saw at SCL?
600i rework looks pretty damn good. And I like the changes they're doing. I'm a bit concerned about the amount of wasted space that had been on the 600i, but we knew that. And it kind of ties in with what Execute always says about Origin ships, and even with the 890. There's so much wasted space. And it's true, there is. There's a heap of wasted space, even on the 890. I like the idea in the touring version where you got the stairs coming down the side. They actually look like they listened to us about having those horrible narrow stairs that wind all over the place. It looks like they're a bit wider and easier to get access to. So that's a good thing. For the exploration version, I could see the changes they're doing, but I'm still interested to know, okay, do we still have our scanner suite? Do we still have, what are the features that you're putting into the exploration ship that make it a good explorer? What they showed told me it is a great cargo ship. They basically showed us the cargo and the the main cargo deck and the second cargo deck, and the residential area, but we didn't see anything that really told us about how it's an explorer ship, and that was my great beef about the Odyssey. So I'm going to be consistent and say, show me how it's an explorer, but it looks good.
Looks good, but it's not quite to your standards for exploration yet. You'd be hesitant to suggest people just melt everything and buy an explorer right now.
Yeah, well, we know from the previous one it had a scanner suite. We know it had dual scanners. We know that it had the big globe. I would expect or hope it's still going to have that functionality. But what else have they added to make it a good explorer? Have they given it drones? Have they given it a repair shop? Have they given it those features that, say, the Carrack has that make it a really good explorer? And they haven't told us that. They've told us it's got a great cargo bay. They've told us they've really made it look good. But how does it fit in as an explorer? The touring version looks sweet, and I like the way they've done that as well.
Sorry.
So someone said all redeemers all the time is fixed by fleet. I was trying to figure who the name of that person was.
Chat's gonna bully me. Chat's gonna bully me about the Redeemer because the chat has this thing where they think it's my favorite ship in the game is the Redeemer because CIG said so. So
maybe for April Fool's Day, Paul, we do a fix my fleet with Paul, and literally it's just like the whole page is just redeemers, and then release it as an April Fool's joke. That'd be funny. Algrid, there are a couple of people in chat saying they're having a lot of trouble hearing you. So
I can see one person in chat saying that. So
yeah, I'm having trouble hearing you though too. So I think you might want to go back to your normal mic, just because it's a little fluffy. I don't know what else to.
It's fine. I can turn you up a little bit more. I just look when you get high, it gets really peaky. Yeah. So
just so everyone knows, Algrid's testing a label mic. You can kind of see it there on his tie, but that's why he's not on his normal mic. So that's why he's a bit weird. Well, more weird than usual. But
Go ahead.
I was trying to solve a problem that people say that often, you can't hear me. So I tried a different mic, which keeps it in location rather than me speaking over the mic. So
yeah, and it's fine. I think it's fine. I think most of chat can hear you pretty well. I'm just it's just an issue of which we'll get after. We'll talk after the stream probably about getting a gate on there so it doesn't peak out as much. So all right. Anything else, Al? How about the touring? Did you like the touring version?
Yeah, I did like the touring version. I did think it was quite good. Again, haven't seen everything. We saw the foyer to the rooms. We saw the main meeting area. We saw the bar. We saw the hot tub. We saw they were taking cues from the 890. It does seem to have more of those Origin type feel to it. It certainly seems to have got rid of those horrible crew shared quarters, which you wouldn't want on a luxury ship. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it looks good. The progress is looking fine. But the Origin hover tank definitely needed for that huge cargo bay.
Okay. Yeah, we need the Origin hover tank. I was joking with chat that needs to be called the T14, and those who know, because completely cosmetic tank. Execute. Your thoughts on the 600i?
So short version is, I think this shows that the 890 jump needs to rework. Because I'm actually kind of impressed. I really am. Like this is way more luxury. Like they said it's luxury. You're paying for luxury. This actually looks like they've put in the effort of the luxury, right? So I was kind of impressed. Even the touring impressed me, right? And that says a lot because that's the one I really hate on. But it looked like luxury. It looked like it was really unique. And I was really impressed. Like everything was like. It's the old term doled it up to 11. Like I said with the bar to you earlier, Paul. Like the old bar is literally like an island bench essentially.
Yeah.
And then the new one's like this huge, big, elegant thing that spans the whole room, top to bottom, and it looks more like a shop front by comparison. And it just looks really awesome. And I actually think there's several things they could do there. They could actually, like, they had it lit and stuff. If they made it so you could change the lights and set the color of it, they turned the touring into more of a party boat, which I think was really interesting. And the thing that really hit me was the cargo bay, how they cut it up into separate floors now, and instead of it looking like this, had this real curvature thing with Origin. I don't know how to explain. Like, everything's got these constant curves. It's more like high tech, and that's what I always thought it would be like. Because they are spaceships. All spaceships still need to have a kind of there's a
edge.
Well, there's a function over form thing with spaceships. Yeah. Even today, you know how they're trying to get every bit of space out of something. Like, it doesn't quite do that to the same level. But the fact that everything is, like, well, you got square cargo and you put it in a round room. You get where I'm going with that straight off the bat. It just doesn't work because you run out of space really quickly. But they have a lot of space for cargo. The big one, right? Is literally it is now placed under the Carrack in the correct stepping stone order, because it now has that tier 2 bed, and it can now carry a large vehicle like a ballista or a Nova tank. That's put it into like, it literally like, it's the step above. Like, if the Connie is the medium one with the Ursa and stuff like that, it literally is an upgraded Connie now. That is literally what it is, because it's just one. It's kind of like almost like one slot above. And I think it actually deserves its price now. I think I could really can say that.
This is about 600,
mainly
right?
because
the price itself.
I have 475 in my head, but don't quote me on that. I could Google it, but and that's for the Explorer version. And there's a $50 price. I think it's $425 for the touring
and $475 for the Explorer. I thought, that's just my memory, but.
Yeah, it's $475 for standalone for the Explorer. So and then touring is.
And then we'll bitch about why we get in game and the Explorer actually costs less, but that's for another day.
Again, I just think it shows how often we're doing this type of thing, that both Execute and I could go, it's $425 and $475. So.
Oh, someone said $435. Really? I thought it was a $50 difference. Maybe I'm mistaken.
It's $435 for the touring. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, $425. There you go. So
yeah, I thought it was $425. Okay, cool. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
But the touring impressed me more than I thought it would. Right. And I got to tell you, I'm not a. I think touring is just gameplay light. But I'm like Agrid. My concerns are still. What other things have changed? Because literally what they said in that video was that the only things that didn't change was the cockpit and the captain's quarters. So there's some other changes there. Obviously, we're going to see it on the IC they told us about. So I'm looking forward to that. But I also come back to the question: what are other ships that need reworks more than this? That was the other thing. Like, was this exactly a priority? Yeah. So
I will echo this, is that the 600, I have one because I have the executive edition, just because I spent too much money on this game. And to be fair, like,
giveaways though, you didn't really buy them for yourself.
No, I'll almost, like, the only things I have for myself which costs more money are like skins. About a couple skins. I'm the reason why CIG is doing microtransactions. You can thank me in chat or in comments below. But like, I think I've spent maybe a little bit more than $1,000 total on this game. But a lot of these other
for you,
for me,
right.
Everything else has been giveaways. But in general,
so you've done the least of the three of us here. Let's just put it that way.
I'll put it that
Not
way,
throwing any particular old men under the bus. But
so what he's saying is that Paulie is the sane one. And everybody knows that I've got Nursey who's looking after me as well. So is Nursey an Uber girl? That's another question.
That's a good question.
I didn't know Nursey existed.
Oh yeah. Nursey has been there because she had to give him his meds one day.
Yeah.
But
I agree. I was very impressed by it. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have been asking is like, is that really concept art? It's like, yes, CIG has gotten better at concept art since they've started, because they actually have that. Like a lot of times they can block this out in 3 dimensions, and I guarantee you, someone pulled up a 600i, deleted all the interior space, and then used that as a reference for like took a screenshot for the right angle, and then use that that spatial reference with you know their own concept images and sort of worked it
They
through.
probably actually filled it with empty boxes for the rooms, and then go, here's how big this room is, and gave them the dimensions in meters, and then said, fill this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
really-
definitely had like a visual reference for that space, so they knew exactly what it was. Because it looks, a lot of people mention like, this looks like it would be in the Redeemer, or in the Redeemer. Yeah, talk about Redeemer.
Hell yeah! AstroPub Redeemer confirmed!
Now, Paul, was that a Freudian slip there?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. We need
That's
a
proof.
AstroPub module. Woo!
That is proof. That is proof that Paul's favourite ship is the Redeemer, because
According to CIG,
Freudian slip.
according to CIG, it is. The 600i, but the like they obviously like it looks like it could be in the 600i, and I think it's because they're getting better at this, and I don't expect the 600i rework to take nearly as long as say the Cutlass rework or any of the other reworks they've done in the past, simply because they have better tools for it right now.
No, I think as they go forward, any rework is going to be quicker, just because they've improved the way they do things and the tools they've got to do things. I think we do have to stress that this is concept art. They have not started working on this, and as concept art, it could totally change, and it may not. We may get nothing that looks like that in the end, but it's where they're thinking at the moment.
Well, and I'm glad for that. That'll be another thing I'll reiterate there, is like that kind of instant information, that information we're getting like right away, or as soon as possible, as soon as they know. That's what I want from CIG. If that is entirely different from what it will be, at least we know that that's the direction they're going at, because we can pull out ideas like, okay, so they've figured out the space, they can do 3 decks on there. Now that might change in terms of geometry and stuff like that, and they may they take like it can hold a tank. Do not go to the bank with that it's going to be able to hold a tank at the end. It's just they're blocking out the idea and realize, wow, we can hold a lot of shit in this cargo bay.
Wow, there was a lot of wasted space here.
Yeah,
hey, that deck actually is big enough that we could put a tank in there if we wanted. It's like what John Cruise said with the Carrack after it grew. If we made all those modular cargo pods a single unit, it could take a ballista.
Well, it now kind of does rival the Carrack in a way, because the Carrack can't carry a large vehicle.
It can't yet.
Like, it really. You reckon in
those
the
modules. In those cargo modules. We eventually those will open up, or will be able to be deployed, and you probably be able to deploy them out. So,
as long and John Crew did suggest that down the track they could create a single module that would be able to take a tank. So, not a tank, but a ballista. So it can possibly down the track take them.
Actually, our grid, we've measured out the modules that it has right now, and they fit a ballista or an over tank, so you could actually carry 4.
Yeah.
So
but I mean, the point being, like, this is an exploration of the space. So when people are looking at this, keep that in mind, that this is not final. If you said, "Oh, I've melted my ship, I really want a 600i now," don't. Like, take a pause and breather. Like, if you already have a 600i and you like it, it's going to get better. If you were looking forward to a ship that was about that size, you wanted for exploration, you didn't like, say, the Phoenix or something like that, then maybe look at it now. But don't don't buy something based off of concept art. It's just not a good idea.
So, if you want to play it safe, pick up a CCU and just sit on it. That's the advice we always give. Just pick up a CCU and sit on it.
And if you're looking at it, and if you're looking at the ship and saying, "Oh, I want an exploration ship," and there's no exploration stuff on it, don't just ditch it because you can't see the exploration stuff. That will probably, hopefully, that will be there. It used to have some exploration stuff. Hopefully, we're adding more.
That's a really good point. Don't bail on it until you've seen the rework, because you may regret it. Yeah, that's the other advice. The other way. Yeah.
So I am impressed. I'm looking forward to it. I have an executive edition, like I said, so I'm looking forward to see what it looks like. And I'm glad that they're talking to us. But my other thoughts is just keep it chill. Keep it chill. If this piqued your interest and you like that style, I think that's another way of saying, if you like the style of what you saw, we're almost guaranteed to see something in that style. Maybe not exact design, but that style for sure when it comes out.
Just Just real quickly from both of you, do you think that's going to spur those Origin fanboys now to push for a rework on the 890 jump? Because I think that's what, like, they're a hard group to quiet, so to speak. So I think they'll push for an 890 one next.
I think it'll go even further. I think people will want a Connie interior rework and the Freelancer interior work. I've heard more noise about the Freelancer interior rework than I've seen anything else. So.
Yeah, so Freelancer, I think, is definitely more realistic on the cards. Algar and I have talked about the Connie to the cows come home, but if you remember back, you know how they're talking about the nav mesh on planets. The Connie was the original testbed for the nav mesh, and that tells me that it's somewhere in Squadron 42. So they don't want to rework that because it's going to be in the game. So they'll wait until the game's out, and then they'll do what we've talked about, like they'll make a Model 7 or Mark 7 or whatever it's called, and then offer everyone a free upgrade, so to speak. Well, that's what, I don't know, Algar, you speak of yourself, but that's what we've talked about, yeah?
Yeah, we've talked about certainly that CIG have even said they want to rework the Connie. They've said that the Connie is Chris's favourite ship, so it's going to look good. It's going to be a good ship. It just needs a rework. But as John Crew often says, it's in-game. It flies. It does what we want. You can use it. What would you rather us do? Rework this ship again or work on a new ship?
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing to take into account, because I saw a lot of people get upset. Like they're working on the 600i and they haven't even started on the on insert X ship here. God, it's like, no, it's a rework. It's a concept image. They haven't started it yet. They will. And the reason why they needed to redo it was because it was bad. It was bad. The 600i has been lambasted as probably the worst design ship that CIG has ever done. Next to it's only number 2. It's number 2 behind the Starfarer. Those are the 2 ships that are the worst design ships that CIG has ever made. The Starfarer is a joke, and the 600i is just wasted space. The ship. It just gets so much empty.
And in fairness to the Starfarer, it was built as a PvP.
Yeah,
it was built for Squadron. Level. It was built for Squadron because it's supposed to be his first-person shooter level, because we already know that there's at least one Starfarer in the game, so it's obvious designed for Squadron 42 in terms of design. But
I think it's just generally the older a ship is, the more it needs the rework, because they've learned so much in the ship pipeline.
Yeah,
you know, everything improved. Jared said it himself as much on that show. Because the more they improve, the more, you know, that's one of the things I've said. Like, people are like, what ship are you looking forward to next? And I'll just chuck anything else that I don't own under the bus, because the further along the stuff gets pushed that I own, the better it's going to be.
Anything I don't like.
So do your 600i rework, because I don't care.
It's one of the reasons I'm happy that, you know, John Crew's always said the Endeavour was going to be one of the last ships they do.
Yep.
Really happy with the
point.
Cult of the Endeavour. That's why we call ourselves the Inforunners the Cult of the Endeavour, because it's incredibly cheap, and if it's the last thing they do, it's going to be the best ship they ever make. So
and Crucible.
Yeah, and the Crucible. Well, the Crucible's coming sooner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That was on the roadmap, but I do think it. We've talked about this heaps about like it having a redesign, because we obviously know it's got to grow. So I'm intrigued to see what changes they make. I'm
interested to see what they do with Crucible in terms of changing. How's it going to go? Is it going to take more of the Liberator type styling as well, or is it going to keep where it is and just grow? Lots of things with the Crucible to ask and answer, and so it's interesting to see where that goes. So yeah,
Agrid, I would not be surprised at some point with that Endeavour there's not some Easter egg in there about us. I'm just gonna say that now. Like, I'll be really some kind of joke, because we've just given John Cruz so much grief. I'll be really surprised if there isn't. But
we're probably responsible for the most sales of that thing, because we plug it so much.
I mean, it's super cheap, and I mean, I won't go on to the rant about it, but speaking of the Endeavour, since the Endeavour is likely going to be available at IAE, let's talk about the ships to look for at IAE. We'll start with you, Execute. Are there any ships specifically that you see that go, like, this ship is going to go up in price, or this ship is going to be important because, like, say, like, people are going to ask about the 600i. The 600i, will it's going to get a price increase because of all these new interior redesigns? So is there anything you see that would be a valuable pickup or a valuable kind of just glance at?
I think we should do this more Inforunners, just this section. So do this more
Yeah.
as a discussion. So for me, our grid, and Paul, I'd say the Vulture's coming out, the
Mhm.
Corsair's coming out. So I know we're getting price jumps on those two. Is there any other two you can think of price jump wise? What, just off the bat?
I mean, we said 600i, right? So,
yeah, that's a possibility too. Yeah, and the Banner Merchantman might be another
Yes.
one.
Yep. And another one, because the Crucible is on the roadmap. That could also get a price increase because it
SRV.
is so bloody cheap.
the SRV
And the SRV.
and
Yeah,
the whole
that's
C.
another one.
And the whole C.
Yep.
Because those two are
Yep,
both done
true.
or being in the process of being finished.
Yep.
I also think that we might see a bit of an increase on the Pisces, the C8, because of what we'll talk about here in
Really?
a moment.
Because of the new one that's coming. So they might
the rescue variant.
push it up to make it.
Well, I would assume because they already include it with the skin and it made it $60. I just assume that they would have like a $5 CCU to get to that.
The new one.
Because the default one is kind of the one with the skin. It's not really you actually see the expedition more than you see the unskin one. So
yeah, but I mean, I think
I don't know.
I think it might end up because the hype for it, being a winner of the in top 4 of the ship showdown, and it's also a you're going to have the rescue variant. So I can imagine the rescue variant being expensive, then bumping those prices up just a little bit.
I know we're on a slight tangent here, but I just want to throw this out to you two, and I know chat might go a bit insane when I say this, right? But the line was a variant of a popular ship,
yes,
right? So I want to throw this out there that it's not just a medical Pisces, but it's a medical Carrack.
Could be, but none of the leaks we saw said anything about that. But we could see it.
I know, but it was just where my brain went. I was like, I wonder if they're hiding this from us, and so you get a full upgrade. You get the medical Pisces, a medical Ursa rover, and you get a medical Carrack. Because one of the things that's that Star Trek aesthetic is the humanitarian aid stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So it's a long-range medical ship. It lines up with the Endeavour, if you think about it. It's between the Endeavour and the Apollo.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those things that it lines up well with that, and it already has medical bay. So
and it's got a pretty good medical bay when you look at it. And I could imagine, because it's got the beds there already, like it's got the main bed and the 2 kind of recovery beds. You could easily say that main bed's a tier 1 now instead of a tier 2, and the ones on the side are tier 3 or something like that. So.
And you don't really need to change the inside. You just go, there's now a medical module available for it, so to speak.
Yeah. So you'd buy a medical module that you would swap out the like one of the cargo modules with the medical module, and so it's now a module. I could see that. I don't think that's the case. I think the Pisces is really what it is.
And
I
know.
do think
I'm just floating it. That's why I was floating it.
I'm almost certain. I'll add this to it. I'm almost certain that eventually they're going to have a medical module, a fuel refinery module, a refueling module, a repair module for those little cargo bays that they have. Just because that makes sense for a ship that's supposed to be an exploration ship that needs to be flexible. So
I think it goes back our grid to like the Pisces itself. I think it kind of confirms to me what we initially expected, because if you go back to the what I'm talking about here to bring everyone else to speed, what I'm telling our grid is the original concept of the Pisces. They actually had a scanning computer station in the Pisces, right? And I think that kind of confirms now that you can put like modular desks or something to that effect into the Pisces. So you can put in a bed that's like a tier 3 bed that on one of the sides, and then you can have a scanning station on the. So you could chop and change. Do you want cargo? Do you want medical bed? Do you want a scanning suite? So can you imagine a ship that has a tier 3 medical bed and a scanning suite and has no cargo? Like that's really handy to me. Or you can chop and change. But I'll believe it when I see it. But that looks like what it could be. So if that bed is kind of like non-integrated into the wall, I actually think it means it'll be a variant, like a modular thing. And that fixes all the problems we had with that grid, essentially, doesn't it?
Yeah, the question I'd have is, would they sell the modules, or will they keep selling them as individual ships? My horrible marketing sense says sell them as individual ships, because it makes it
makes more
gets
money.
you them now.
Yeah.
Whereas if you sell just the modules, you're getting less money per item. But I imagine you'll actually get more money for quantity. And it's a bit like the success of the Argo in the Best in Show. You're not getting a bit, they didn't get lots of sales on these big ships and lots of money coming in, but they sold so many of them that it actually balanced out and actually possibly even went better than they hoped.
Well, it makes it more accessible, doesn't it? And the people that want to buy, some people buy multiples if they've got enough money, and other people just buy the one. Where if you have a bigger ship, you just put people out of the market, essentially.
Yeah. Let's move on a little bit further. Let's also talk about the other theories, the other speculations for this. Let's talk about the Cutter. What do y'all think the Cutter is?
Oh, well, me and Agra did a whole show on this years ago, didn't we, Agra?
Go check out the video.
I can't. It's so long ago though. That must be like 3 years ago. We did a whole episode on this thing.
Do you think it's actually the Cutter that's going to be with the Aegis Reclaimer?
I've had so many people go, and even you said it. I think you might have been the first person that said to me, is like, there's no way they'd put a Drake ship inside an Aegis ship. And my response to you was, but isn't that the UAE, not Aegis themselves? And I know there's a beef between the Idris and the Kraken, but you'd have to go, all right, so that ship specifically was Aegis reaching out, trying to do something that was more civilian based, So you think that if they're trying really hard, and Drake is good at salvage, so obviously they've got the Vulture and they've got the Cutter, right? So we know that at the very least. So wouldn't they go, hey, let's try and get some help from the people that know? So you get where I'm going with this? So they've just like let bygones be bygones, and okay. But I also think it means that I'll talk about this later when we talk about all of them, but I'm pretty sure that is a very, very small ship, or a vehicle to that effect.
I could, as Monster AV says in chat, I could see a Drake Cutter being so common that you just use it as the de facto standard, just like the Argo utility vehicle is the standard. What I've always thought, and what we always thought the Cutter was basically Ripley's utility loader.
Power loader, but close enough.
Power loader. So that's what we've always kind of thought it'd be, because it really ties in with that.
Well, it's essentially it's got to fit inside other ships, doesn't it, Agrid? Like it's got to be able to go in and get the components, and if it can't go in, therefore it's got to be essentially parked at docking ports or akin to that, where you can get in and pull the components out. But the way it's literally, like, you visualize it, it cuts other components out of the other ships. That's its job essentially. And
it's small, and I always got the impression it's smaller than an MPUV, which originally had the idea of having cutting tools as well to do minor repairs and help get pilots out of their destroyed ships. So if it's smaller than an MPUV, where do you go? And for me, the logic is it's a kind of a Titan-y type suit, power loader. So
it's got to have some kind of tractor beam on it, because it's got to be able to move some of those really, like let's just take the Hercules for example. Look how big the components are in that thing. But you're going to be able to walk down those human-sized walkways to get to where the components are to cut them out and pull them out. So unless it's some kind of, it literally could just be a skip that you attach them to, and you go in by hand and pull them out with a tractor beam. I don't know. We're guessing at this point.
I do not believe the Cutter has anything to do with salvage. I don't think it does, because first of all, the Drake title makes me very hesitant that it's a Drake manufactured ship. Very hesitant that it would end up on an Aegis ship, just because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I do think we'll still, and this is going to be very, very, this is going to sound very sassy. It's not meant to be. CIG sucks at names. So
I agree. But you got to admit, there is the fact that it's called the Cutter, like, speaks. It's really hard to ignore.
After specifically calling the like little drone bay that they have with the Cutter, I'm pretty sure what they'll have is a a reclaimer will have a drone that is called the Aegis Cutter, which is the Cutter drone, and then they're going to have the Drake Cutter, which is going to be a ship, because they do that a lot, like the Atlas chassis and the Atlas, the Atlas, not the Atlas chassis, the Titan suits, and then the Aegis Titan, the Avenger Titan, and then other things like that. They'll do that sort of things as long as it's not in the same category. Difference between
and if you go back to naval stuff, a cutter was just a little support ship, little rowboat type thing to go between. So a bit bigger or smaller than the longboat, but the same type of thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be literally a salvage cutting tool. It could be just a ship. So
let me float this then. Knowing what we know about how they tend to go from worst to best, what if this is the first Titan suit?
Could be. We don't know, because there was no indications in the leak about what if it was a ship or not. The only thing that makes me think it's probably a ship is because they said that they had a small ship, like a medium ship, and a beloved
variant.
Not a small ship. It was a vehicle, a ship, and a variant. So it's hard to tell.
Well, that's something I want to talk about too, because if you actually look at the size of the ships, we essentially have a vehicle, a small ship, and a medium ship. We don't have a really large capital.
Yeah.
Because
they might have learned their lessons.
Capital ship.
They may have learned their lesson and stopped doing freaking concept ships until they can get a handle on their capital class.
Well, because the MCV can't be Pioneer size as an example, which is the capital. So at the very least, it's a lot. It'll be large, medium, or small. So therefore, there's no capital.
Let's talk about the MCV. What is the MCV? What do you think it is?
Well, in the lines of code, it talks about it being a mobile factory, and it says MCV. So I'm just going to conclude it's mobile construction vehicle. That's literally what I've called it. But I could be 100% wrong on that.
And it's being in the net, right?
But being the law team, that's the obvious answer. So it's not that. It's the mildly corrupt vehicle or something like that. I don't know.
Modular construction vehicle or something like that.
Yeah, or something like that.
If it is Argo, that to me at least fits with what I understand Argo is. Argo are your logistics mob. They're the mob that are building the infrastructure. They're building the rail lines on planet. I wouldn't be surprised if Argo are responsible for building the rail system on both Microtech and Hurston. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because that's their bread and butter.
They do. It's literally the best at it. So
So my brain kind of goes to a ship that can print one module piece at a time. So how they do complete outposts in the Pioneer? This thing probably just does like one room or one turret or something like that.
Go ahead, Al.
So Argo really are they logistic. Grey Cat, mining. Why, CIG? Why? It's always my frustration. It's
why do we have the mole? Why is the mole an Argo ship and not an Grey Cat ship?
Absolutely. It would make and it's not as if we didn't have the law for a company that did this. You've got a company that you went to town on to create them as a mining company when you brought out the PTV.
Actually, Agrid, you bring up a really good point. They should have had Grey Cat in the vote for that miner, because then they could have somehow incorporated the tick miner into that, as in go, this is an upgraded tick, or this is that way you could have kind of given the tick to the players, so to speak, but through another mean. Oh man, that's such a missed opportunity.
For those who don't know, the mining tick, which I believe is called the Argo
Cygnus
mining drone. It's a mining drone, but it's not Argo. It's a Grey Cat Cygnus mining drone. Because Grey Cat's lore is it's the mining company. It builds all the tools and all the equipment and all the security, or all like the safety materials. Everything that is used in mining is built by
from your Grey Cat multi-tool to your heavy mining suit to everything. They build it.
Yeah.
And they went to town. They've got so much detail on the lore piece for Grey Cat, which they put out when they made the PTV, is so in depth.
It's a
Perfect
tragic story
opportunity.
about a genius who lost his arm in a mining accident and lived in isolation and built all these
was
crazy tools. So
and felt really guilty because people who were working in the mine had died because he had been, you know,
he'd
saw
been wrong.
himself as having hubris, and he
Yeah.
was wrong, and he went out of his way to build stuff that was super protective, and the PTV was his literally little vehicle for driving around the mine so he could be safe, and
Yeah.
factory workers went, we can use this for driving around our factory,
they just
and that's
removed the
why
roof.
it became
Yeah.
that's why it became the vehicle for driving around your hangars.
Yeah.
So back to the MCV. Do you guys think that that's what it possibly is? It's like just a
Oh,
smaller
for
version
sure.
of the Pioneer,
Medium, large version of a Pioneer, because we've known they've been needing to do that for a very long time. They've been needing to, if they're going to go down that road of building, they're going to need to have smaller versions of it. So I think a medium to large ship, versus the capital class is what we probably look at.
MANCHACA mentioned in chat, but it could be, what if it's a base repair vehicle? And while I would have initially went, nah, but you'll remember that was it in CitizenCon or one of the others where they were talking about the persistence, where if you blow the door off this building,
This hab,
it's going to stay. You blow the door off this hab, it's gone.
It does say, just to counter that though, Agrid, in the code, it literally says it's a mobile factory. Yeah, it calls it a mobile factory. Is literally as it describes it. So that is possible though. It can print pieces. Repair. So maybe So it's like we need a new door. Repair. It prints the door, and you just go smack the new door in. So that's totally a possibility. Yeah.
And if you've got those going around, then that also solves the problem of someone blown up a rescue hab. You go there a month later and it's repaired. Why is it repaired? Well, the NPCs have been going around repairing the crap that people keep destroying because you've got to maintain those rescue centers. And
yeah,
one I didn't think about, if you guys are finished there. Have you finished with the MCV?
Go for it.
Because I just remembered one that we forgot about, and that's the UTV. We now know that's a thing too.
Ute.
Yeah. Well, we can't call it Steve, Pete, and Ute. It doesn't work. So we need a new acronym for it.
It's
Newt, like from
Aliens. Newt from
Aliens. You'd call it Schrodinger's.
Well, we've always called PTV Steven with a PH, so it's Peven.
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 You're peeving me off.
The Pete.
The Peven, the Steve, and the Newt.
It's a shame it don't have an Eve,
Let's wrap this up because we've been talking for almost an hour, which is surprising. I know, because we've just been hanging out and talking.
Not really. Not us. No,
not
never.
us. Yeah. Let's finish this up.
I just say real quickly then with the UTV. If the rumors are true and it carries one SCU, it might it goes to that allegory of that they're selling worst to best. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it stands a lot on the default Cyclone quite a bit.
Yeah. It's probably this competitor directly to the Cyclone, to the default Cyclone. That would make sense. Let's wrap this up because I did. Someone in chat did say, "Look, wait. Tell us what ships to buy," and I will reiterate because that'll be the great thumbnail for this, so people will click on it because it's like ships to buy at IAE. What ships would you 100% suggest people look at if they were looking to expand their fleet? What ships would be the best deals, do you think, right now, looking at the possibility of what we've just talked about for IAE?
Well, we tend to customize, don't we, Agrid?
Yep.
But value-wise, I think that's the old one.
Value-wise, let's look for value.
Yeah, well, Endeavor, Crucible.
If you're looking at, if you've got a fleet and you don't have an Endeavor or certainly if you don't have a Crucible, and you've got a fleet of half a dozen ships, it's worth looking at getting. If you're in an org and your org has like 2 Crucibles or no Crucible, get a Crucible. Yeah. Because everyone is, if you've got capital ships, you want a Crucible.
Mm-hmm. I guess the other little thing we could add is if you've got a bigger ship, you can use that bigger ship to get all the ships underneath it a lot quicker than going the other way. That's probably the other thing. So if you've got like a Prospector and a Mole, you should probably think about melting those and getting an Orion.
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah,
especially because if you look at the
And then Alger's been doing this robot thing, so he'll come back here in like 3
yeah.
seconds.
So Agrid has a fairly not the best internet connection, and being a Saturday here in Australia, everyone would be home jumping on the net. So that's why Agrid keeps dropping out. Yeah,
He's back.
Sunday execute.
it's about to. No, I'm just telling people what's going on. And so basically, they're getting better internet in your area though soon, aren't they? So hopefully,
Yes. Hopefully, we'll get the.
All right. So you were saying something about the I completely forgot what it was. You're talking about the Crucible, yeah.
Yeah. So the Crucible is certainly a ship that you should look at getting, because every ship is going to you're not going to always be able to fly a ship back if it's damaged. You're going to need to repair it, and the Crucible is basically the ship that does that. The only other ship that's useful for that is an SRV, which is the recovery vehicle, and at one point that was basically an offshoot of what one of the things the Crucible was going to offer. So at the price it is, definitely the Crucible. We were talking the Orion as well. Execute was saying if you got the Prospector and the Mole, though the price of those together is basically the price of the Orion, and if you get that now, you actually get the Prospector and the Mole to use in game until the Orion's built and in game. And so,
can I link you a picture, Paul, that you can pull up? Because this is a picture we don't show enough people, but Agra knows exactly what I'm going to link.
I know exactly this.
Not
No, not
that one. The Prospector versus the Orion one is the one I'm talking
about. All right. Yep.
It's the one that a lot of people
don't realize.
They don't take scale into account. I'm just going to drop this in our group chat. I hope that's okay, Paul.
That's fine. The other thing I would say while you're doing this is the Endeavor. We talk about ourselves as the cult of the Endeavor for a reason. The Endeavor is just a bang on good idea, because it's gonna get bigger. It's gonna get massively bigger.
So if you take into account that 5 prospectors actually costs about 700, I think it's 725, 750, something like that. And then it takes 5 people minimum to have in an Orion. And then you look at this picture that Paul's going to rock up, and you try and tell me that 5 prospectors even remotely compete with this thing. So when Paul brings it up, you'll see what I mean.
I will just put it ghetto style on the screen, so we have it here. So
no switch, just
there's no subtlety to this. This is just gonna put it right on the screen
in your face,
right here. Boom. So you can see what we're talking about. That right there below is the Prospector compared to the Orion. So,
and is that the original Orion, or is that the new supersized Orion?
Well, does it matter?
It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter.
It's a supersized Orion.
Yeah.
It just it makes it even more. It just emphasizes that point even more.
Yeah, but yeah, you can clearly see that thing. Like you look at the cargo bays on the Orion. It literally 2 prospectors would be equal to 1 little cargo sack. So this thing is just. It's got no chance of even remotely scaling with that Orion.
The 1 cargo sack is the size of a mole, let alone a prospector. So
when we talk about things like value for your money, what we're talking about is this ship is going to take forever in game to buy to earn. It's not impossible, and you probably still could earn it on there'll be other things, but like when you're looking at the value of the money versus what you're getting out of it. The difference between the Prospector and the Orion, where the Prospector costs 5 Orions, or 5 Prospectors cost 1 Orion.
It's less than that, because I worked out 5 Prospectors was basically 700 and something, and I've forgotten the exact value, and an Orion is 575. So it's kind of ridiculous. So
And Agent 1213 says that's the 170 meter Orion. It's now 340 meters. So
that's got even bigger, right? The point is exactly the same. Like some people just don't put the scale into account, and when you put them next to each other like that, it's very obvious what we're talking about. It's out of sight, out of mind, because we're usually talking heads. But and the other thing I'll add is, say you do get an Orion, in a really weird turn of phrase, it's not just the smaller mining vehicles you've got. You know, this is something we did with John Citizen. John really loves his Prospector, but it took us 2 months, but we got into his head. He can now take that Orion, and if he wants a Vulture, he can go out and do one quest in a Vulture and just afford to buy the Vulture because that's how much money you make in an Orion. You know, it's quicker for him to do that than it is to sit there with a Prospector and go sideways.
Yeah.
You know, and if he wants...
Good.
No, I was just gonna say, and it just gives you all the ships underneath it. Having one big ship is a really good way to go.
And the fact that you get the loaner of a Prospector and the Mole at present anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
Until
and probably the landminer if the landminer comes first. You know that you could get that too as a loaner. We just don't know.
So for context, we have an entire video on the Inforunners that we talked about the missing gaps in ships for specific professions, and one of the things we think is going to happen is going to be a ship that mines on planets, that just mines like the ground.
And just to add to that, at the end of last year in the ship thing, you know, the ship, what's it, ship Q&A, I think it's called. They did confirm that underground mining is still a thing. So that ship that you've been voting on from RSI, that'll be a land miner more likely than not.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when they talked about the HABs and the outposts, they even showed the idea of player-owned outposts, and they had refineries and mining outposts in that as well. So
and
the game is your oyster. It's got so much that they can go, and things that they've said are doing, and it's just...
Yeah, and that was what I was going to bring up about the Endeavor. Is like the Endeavor's the same way. Like if you're into science, if you're into exploration, if you're into medical gameplay, the Endeavor has all of those things, and it's cheaper than a Connie, or it's like as cheap as a Connie right now, right? The base model is like $250, and then each of
$350, I believe.
$350,
the base.
And then if you buy, and you get all the different modules, the Endeavor.
Yeah.
And you get all the different modules. That thing's going to be... I've been saying for a while that the Endeavor, since it's going to be one of the last ships released, is going to be the size of a Bengal carrier. It's going to be probably damn near that size, because they've even talked about how it's going to have to grow and how much they're going to want to add for all these modules. So it's almost certainly going to get bigger.
That video is our most popular video on our entire channel. Last chance for the Endeavor, and that
and that was partly a view that we had, that we thought it was going to go up. Every year we think the Endeavor's going to go up. The Endeavor's going to go up. The Endeavor's going to go up. But it's just such a steal.
It's the same thing with the Crucible and the Endeavor. Like you got no reason to, like, it cost you $10 to just buy a CCU and sit on it and wait for them to increase exorbitantly in price. You know,
both of those ships. If you do not have at least a CCU to jump to them from a
Gemini,
then you're insane.
And the thing is just straight up as well, that those, like the Endeavor, for instance, even if you get the Endeavor now and it's the only ship you have, you're going to get loaners. You're going to get the Freelancer. You're going to get
well, I think the loaner is the Starfarer and
Freelancer.
Is it the
or is
Freelancer?
it the Lion?
It's a Cuddy Red.
Cuddy Red.
Oh yeah, it's Cuddy Red and a Starfarer, I think.
So it's not like, and I can almost guarantee you when the Apollo comes out, they'll replace the Cuddy Red with the Apollo. Like like you're going to get the content of the ships that you want and from that ship in the first place, while you're waiting for your big ship to come out. So like this is the advantage of that, is that you're getting a good deal on it right now. You're still going to get the content you want. So those are the ships. And I will also preface all of this as we're wrapping up this discussion. Do not do any of this if you just want better ships. Like, just buy them in game if you want better ships that are out right now.
Yeah.
These are things like, if you want to spend money, if you're going to sit there and go, I'm going to spend $1,000 in this game, then these are the ways that you can improve the quality of what you're purchasing based off of what you're trying to get out of it. So
instead of buying multiple fighters and going along, pull them in, get one of those big ships, and then burn down or whatever. Yeah.
We still try generally to recommend new people don't go in and buy lots of ships, but me and Algrid have done Fix My Fleets now, where we've seen, I've been in the game 2 weeks and I've spent $7,000. It's like, oh my god. They are ones that we've seen. So there are still new players coming in and hitting this thing like an absolute truck.
Yeah.
So
I was shared a fleet by someone who is an older backer, and they were asking about things about ships and what should I get and other things. They had 2 javelins. I'll just say I'm not the only mad one. They had 2 javelins, so I'm not the only mad one.
But you've got 3.
One was in a pack.
All right.
I forgot about it. It was in a pack.
Algrid's org is going to be called Algrid and Friends because he's going to need them.
With that all being said, we're going to move on to the question and answers. So we'll have people from chat asking questions, maybe about specific ships, maybe about our thoughts on other things. And if you enjoyed this, make sure you join us over at the Inforunners, youtube.com/the Inforunners. And if you enjoyed this, we do Star Citizen discussions at the Captain's Table every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Well, not every Saturday, but Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub. Come join us for that discussion. And if you did enjoy this as well, please make sure you hit that like button if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, and comment down below your own topics. As we always say on the Inforunners, we do read every single comment. We may not respond to it, but we do read every single comment. So please try to stay civil and polite. No one wants to hear, and please try to keep it short. I don't need a manifesto.
It can take an hour to get through comments these days. And that's just reading them. And I will be honest with Paul, if you come up to this massive wall of text, I will skim read because you're looking for keywords because it just takes too long.
And I will respond with, "Sir, this is a Whammers."
But most of those comments, I'm going to be honest, are from Algrid, the really long ones, because he just waffles. But I've got used to it. No, I'm teasing you out. Teasing.
I will actually respond to Monster AV's comment that once you've got the second jab, you're in too deep. Once you've got one jab, you're in too deep.
You're in too deep.
Once you've got one, you're in too deep.
Forrester's got 3 ships, and one of them's a javelin. So he's got like a small, a medium, and the javelin. So he's actually, it's not terrible idea.
And that's another plug there. Go watch Forrester. He's a fantastic content creator. He'll hang out. He'll watch this video and realize that we plugged him and go, "Oh, thank you."
Well, actually, we should probably get Forrester on because we like different viewpoints, and Forrester doesn't exactly agree with everything we say. So I'd like to get him on, and we enjoy that. We enjoy the
disagreements
but
and
learning,
the discussion, and
you learn from others when they disagree with you. As long as they're polite and you keep it civil, you learn a lot from other people. I'll have to get Faster on for a discussion.
You'd be surprised as well how often you just disagree with someone, you talk with them, you realize you agree on the same things. It's just like a small little sentence.
You're just approaching it from a different angle or viewing it from a different point.
100%.
So make sure you do all those things. We're going to move right on to the question and answer session. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.